Disc golf has changed and it's never going back. At least that's what Scott Stokley has to say. What's up, degenerates? It's the disc golf world. I'm Jefferson, and today we have a special interview with none other than the frisbee OG Stokley. While in Finland, he asked us to swing by his hotel for a quick chat, and that's not an opportunity we're gonna waste. I mean, this guy's been playing world championships for a while now.
The actual first World Disc Golf Championships I ever competed in was the WIF Disc Golf Championships in Helsingborg, Sweden in 1985, and I competed as a junior.
Funny how Scott might be the only person to play in both the European disc golf worlds.
But the first pdga World Championships was in Toronto in 1987.
Being the naive 24-year-old, I had to ask what has changed in the past 38 years.
Well, I think some of the competitors wore shirts at the first one instead of all of them. You know, like the rules were being invented still. Like there are rules today that didn't exist then because the game was evolving into this real thing. So probably the most telling thing was that we needed two courses. There were more than 72 players that wanted to play the World Championships, but no qualifying, by the way. And if you wanted to play, there were no amateur divisions in 1987, none. You signed up for the Professional Disc Golf Association because you were a pro.
It's crazy to think that not too long ago, filling up 72 spots for the biggest event of the sport was a big deal. Goes to show how far the game has come, not only from participation, but etiquette as well.
It's not that the rules were different, it was just more relaxed. Like there were some things that would be considered gamesmanship back then. Like someone might come up behind you while you were putting and kind of go.
That's the fastest way to get punched in the face I've ever heard. But apparently this was common.
In the early days of the sport, it hadn't yet been decided, are we a gentleman's game with self-officiating, call your own rules? Are we more like the NFL, which is you follow the rules except the ones you can get away with? And then now, keep in mind, that's not cheating back then. I mean, in football, if you're an offensive lineman and you're holding, are you cheating? No, you're kind of pressing the limits of the rules. So people didn't cheat. I mean, you weren't allowed to write down a bad score. You couldn't, change your lie. Like you weren't allowed to cheat. But, if you crumple up your plastic bottle while someone's teeing off, maybe they got a bit distracted.
Another thing from the past was the acceptable ways to let out anger on the course.
If you got pissed off and you kicked your bag, if you screamed, a lot of people would get mad and yell and swear on the course. That was kind of part of the game.
As Bob Dylan said 30 years prior, the times they are a-changin'.
It was a slow evolution, but I would say by the early 90s, it had really started phasing out, which is great. I mean, I like the way the sport is now. I like the way the players behave. I like the way they interact with each other. No one's trying to circumvent the rules. Like generally speaking, people accept the calls that are made. They play the course to the best of their ability.
Stokley gives a few key examples of changes.
For instance, you had to wear shirts at tournaments. Sorry to the people that want to ignore our sports past, but it was in the early 90s when players stopped smoking pot at tournaments because it had been against the rules, but it had been very loosely enforced. You got to keep in mind, the sport in the early days was counterculture. The thing that made it so beautiful is that at the time in the 70s, jocks played sports, right? Clean cut, athletic, straight edge. That was the kind of the jock thing. There were only a couple sports out there that were counterculture: skateboarding, believe it or not, skiing.
And of course, frisbee. But what does being counterculture mean?
So you had a culture of people that were great athletes. They were competitors. They were talented. They trained hard, but they didn't fit the mold of the jock. So when you started phasing out some of those things from our sport, not everyone was happy about it. And I don't blame them. I mean, they played frisbee because it wasn't a mainstream sport. And now there's people trying to make us mainstream, and plenty of people are like, but that's not why I play.
This would begin the divide of disc golfers. those that wanted to push for the mainstream, and others that enjoyed the fringe that the sport was founded on.
I will never be the old person that says, back in my day, things were better. If you listed 20 things about disc golf, whatever metric you want to have, the number of women that play, juniors, cultural acceptance, prize money, courses, you name it, 19 of 20 things are better now than they've ever been. The sport's crushing it. It's on a trajectory like this. I couldn't be happier. The one thing that, it's not that it's lost, but it's smaller, is there was more of a family atmosphere than there is now, which is going to surprise people because it is such a family today. Everybody talks about going to a course, posting to Facebook, meeting people, making friends, joining foursomes, crashing at people's houses, right? There's no doubt that it exists today. But in the early days, the sport was mostly made up of misfits. Most of the people in the early days didn't fit in other places. And so there was this shared camaraderie because nobody understood what we did and why we did it except each other.
There's people currently watching this nodding their head along thinking this fits exactly how they feel. No, not at all. Disc golf still might be mostly unknown, but the overwhelming negative perception has faded.
This is not an exaggeration. Back in the 80s, you could not tell your boss, I need Saturday off to go to a disc golf tournament. You had to lie about why you needed a day off. You're not getting a day off. I think half the men who played disc golf who were married didn't tell their spouses that they played. Like they had to get home before their wife knew they got off work early that day. Nobody understood us. When you got onto an airplane, someone said, well, why are you flying to Cincinnati? You're like, do you really want to spend 20 minutes explaining what frisbee golf is before telling them why you're going and explaining why you do it? They're not going to understand why you do it. Grown man playing with toys in a park. So there was really an us against them mindset that wasn't in our heads. You know, it was not some street lack of respect thing. No, we truly were us against the world. You try to put a disc golf course in, neighbors showed up with torches and pitchforks. Like they didn't want a frisbee golf course there because they didn't want a bunch of long-haired, stinky hippies playing frisbee in their park. Because of that, we bonded. It can't be that way again because we're bigger now. So that's not faulting the sport. In fact, I love the fact that so many, like the kids on tour, like they keep that spirit alive far better than I would have ever predicted. Like watch the way Own is rooting on her competitors. I mean, like I don't think you see that in other sports, not like ours. So we still have that, but it was more before.
I can't attest to this since Scott Stokley has been a touring professional longer than I've been alive, but from how passionate I hear the early players of the game speak on this exact subject, I believe them. It was much more than a sport back then. It was one big frisbee family.
I've slept on more than 1,000 couches. You had to back then. You would.
Sorry, had to interrupt, only because that laugh means a good story is about to be told, and I live for the OG disc golf lore. Carry on, Stoke man.
So I toured for the first time in 1993. I was the 7th player to go out on tour. The first player was Glenn Whitlock in the 80s. By the way, I'm going to give a nod. I always forget. Greg Hosfeld toured as a stand-up comedian and also played disc golf tournaments. But he had an additional source of income, but he still toured. So he may have been one of the first 2 players to tour with Glenn Whitlock. But Glenn made his living playing frisbee golf in the 80s, and he did it by hitchhiking from course to course. He didn't drive. I don't think he drives still. Then Dan Ginley was the second player to go out on tour. He did it with his own vehicle. And the following year, he brought out Steve Valencia. Then Jeff Lissaman, Johnny Lissaman, Mike Williams traveled in a vehicle. I was the first person, player number 7. I toured with a partner. I actually supported 2 people playing. So back then, you might win $150 at a tournament if you won, which there's no guarantee you're going to win because you get to some town and there's some guy there that lives in the park who's really good. So it was bread, it was bologna, it was scraping change to get to the next town. and greatest experience of my life. It was. I mean, there's nothing like it. I mean, I have money now, so I get to do all the things I couldn't have done before. And if I had the choice, I'd choose to have money as opposed to being broke. Having money's better. But I don't know that I'm having more fun now than before. So you got to town, you slept on someone's couch. They usually fed you.
Did you know them prior to going to the town? Or you
No,
just
never.
were on the course and someone you asked?
No, you asked the tournament director.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, you go to town. I mean, didn't have Facebook back then, so you would ask the TD who has a space available, and there's always people. That was never a problem. Like you stay at people's houses. Once I started getting good, I would get like 3 or 4 or 5 offers in a town, and people would start writing me. Well, I have a spare bedroom. Well, I got a hot tub. Well, my wife cooks, and I'm like, see, so I'll go with the free meals over the hot tub. Well, the hot tub sounds good. I'll go with the free meals. So, that was kind of, living large.
Before Stokley was the guy known for the knuckles or the French beret, he was a kid with a dream.
When I went and toured in 1993, I was in college, finished my 3rd semester of college, and I just went out for 3 months. And at the end of the 3 months, I was like, but can I swear on this?
Sure.
After 3 months, I was like, fuck. I'm totally fucked. How can I go back to college? Now that I know I can play frisbee for a living, I mean, bread, bologna, couches. But playing frisbee golf for a living with bread and bologna on people's couches is way better than any high-paying corporate job I could imagine. No comparison. And so I was like, I'm screwed. There's no money in disc golf. I can't go back to college. I'm never going back to college. And so the experience was like kind of a submission. I kind of submitted to my future. Like I was committed. This is what I was going to do for a living.
I know that feeling way too well. But of course, he still needed to make money because at this time there was no tour, no sponsorships, nothing really. So on his professional journey, he needed to find other ways to make ends meet when necessary.
So what I would do is in the winter, I would play frisbee for like 6 or 7 months. I still call it frisbee, by the way. It's my age. I'd play disc golf for 6, 7 months, and then over the winter I would deliver. I had a couple jobs delivering pizzas, and I snowboarded every day for 8 seasons. So that was my life. Played disc golf for 8 months, snowboard for 4.
As Scott was explaining, all I could wonder was what the tournament scene even looked like back then.
No pre-registration. Signed up day of the tournament. Tournament started when the tournament director arrived. I was going back to say the early 90s. Tournament directors sometimes showed up on time, sometimes late. Sometimes they brought scorecards, not always. The prize money there was no payout scales. So the TD would pay out however they saw fit. You could have, 50 people in a tournament, pay $20 a piece, get $1,000 in prize money, and the tournament director would decide, I want to give $800 for first place. And they just would. Second place, $20. Like that could happen. There were either no women or one. Women didn't play. There were no juniors. There was no amateur division. You played pro. So everybody signed up and played against us. And we were very grateful for them doing that. The shirts were, by the 90s, people often wore shirts at tournaments. The 80s, they did not. Trophies were sometimes made for the tournament. Other times they were thrown together. I'll give you a funny story. So the biggest series in the sport was the Can-Am series. This was the coup de grace. This is the peak of disc golf touring. There were 10 events in Michigan, Canada, Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, New York. Maybe not Illinois, but 10 tournaments, part of a 10-tournament Can-Am series. If you win the Can-Am series, this is like next to Worlds. This is the biggest thing you can possibly do. And the final night, the final event of the Can-Am series in Lewiston, New York, I was staying at the tournament director's house, and the night before, on Saturday night, the night before the finals, he was making trophies in his living room. This is one of the biggest tournaments of the year. And at the last minute, he's like using like Elmer's glue and stuff that he printed out at Kinko's and sticking it to like things. Best trophies ever.
Do you have some?
I don't own anything anymore. 5.5 years ago, I took every single thing I couldn't fit into a backpack and threw it away or gave it away. So right now, at this moment, me and my girlfriend, we've been on traveling together for 5.5 years. If you don't count work stuff, which golf discs, golf clothing, the van, if you don't count the work stuff, every single thing we own in the entire world fits into 2 suitcases. We don't have a storage unit. We don't have a box of stuff at our parents' house. We don't own anything. Like if you gave me a disc golf world shirt, I'd have to get rid of a shirt to make room for it. So no, I don't have any trophies. I give them away. Every tournament I play, I give away my prize money for the past 4.5 years. I donate all my prize money and I give my trophy to some player at the tournament. That's when I was playing MP40 and MP50. When I started playing MPO, I started winning less trophies.
Before wrapping up, I had to know if the 2025 World Championships was something he ever dreamed about happening when he first started playing.
Absolutely 100%. Every single player that plays back then that says they didn't see this coming is either lying or their memory is faulty. And the reason I say this is that every single tournament, we sat around at the tournament director's house or at lunch talking about when it was going to be like this. We all said it's going to blow up. It's going to be the hugest sport. They're going to play it all over the world. There's going to be galleries, coverage. Like every single one of us said this is what would happen. We thought it would happen next year, and then next year, and the next year, and it never did. But we all knew it. We all saw it coming. I mean, you guys know how great this sport is. Like, if you start playing this game, you can't imagine that everyone's not going to love it. Oh, shout out to
Where people go.
StokleyDiscs.com. If you haven't seen the new contrast discs, the contrast Wren and the contrast Lark. These are how we are sponsoring Dallas Garber and James Proctor, our first 2 touring sponsor players. These are the multicolored molding process. They look unbelievable. Go to StokleyDiscs.com and they're all individually photographed. Every single disc is unique, so you can pick out the one you want. But always contact your local vendor first. If given the opportunity, I always want you to shop local and support the local entrepreneurs. They're the ones who are growing the sport in your area. But if they don't carry them, you can go to StokleyDiscs.com. But just go, no matter what, go to StokleyDiscs.com, check them out, and then contact your local vendor. If they don't carry them, tell them to, well, don't tell them, but ask them why they don't. Tell them that you'll support them if they carry my discs.